Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode.
Hey, everybody.
We talk a lot about communication, we talk about standards, but I think something that we really need to talk about is what is the tool or mechanism to have these conversations, and how do we plan our one on one meetings, or as we refer to them sometimes as counseling sessions, and
Yeah,
how can we use that effectively as leaders?
yeah, because that's fantastic if you've got it all in your brain, but you gotta share with those you lead. You gotta talk to them about how they're doing.
Yeah, and I think sometimes there's unfortunately a negative connotation of the
It's
idea
true.
of getting called into your boss's office for a one-on-one, um, whether you, no matter what the naming convention is. And I
Hmm.
want to be clear to everybody listening. I'm not emotionally attached to what you have to call this meeting. It doesn't have to be a counseling session. If you want to call it a touch point, if you want to call it a monthly coaching session, I don't think the name is, extremely
Right.
important. I I think it's more about the content and having the true, authentic conversation with your team members.
Yeah, like you said, it's not a bad thing, right? It doesn't have to be bad. This is a good thing, right? This can be a good thing. This is, hey, let's talk about how you're doing and how you're fitting in and working and improving the company and what the company can do for you. And so it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, so today we're going to walk through a little bit of a templated agenda that we wanted to share with you all. And this is not a hard and fast rule, but this is for, maybe you're a new leader, or maybe you've been leading for a while but just have
Mhm.
not used this technique. We wanted to give you something tangible to utilize and help shape those conversations. And so you can really plan out what this conversation is going to look like. And hopefully, this will be something that you find useful. So, for those of you that are watching on YouTube, it's going to be real easy. If
Mhm.
I'm going to share the screen here. For those of you that may be listening on other platforms, I will post this on our website. And also, feel free to listen to it again on YouTube. We'll have it available there, and we'll put links in the description to take you to where this is on the website. So we've titled this one-on-one meeting agenda. And like I said, to me, it's not so much about what you call it. It's
Mhm.
about the content and having these conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I like the one-on-one title because then it does lend itself to more conversation, right? It's just the two of us
Mhm.
talking, right? Instead of like a counseling, which implies more of a one-way kind of
Yeah.
conversation. But again, yeah, you can call it whatever you like, but it's important to have these meetings.
Yeah. And I think that, where I learned the importance or the value of this, it stems all the way back from the Army of, you're trying to do this on a monthly basis with your direct reports. I understand everybody's busy. It may
Mm.
slip sometimes down closer to a quarterly thing, but I think the more frequently you can do this, the better.
Hmm.
And so, as we've got here on the template, there's some basic administrative data you're going to want to capture: the dates, the names of people who are talking. And I do think
Yeah,
it's important to have some type of form in your organization where you document these.
yeah,
And it's sometimes people, I think, when I explain this, they feel like it's a tool for an I got you moment, or to
right.
catch somebody in a trap, or to use it in a punitive manner. But to me, it's not so much that. It's This is a way you can track and build your annual evaluation based off of all these conversations. Nobody should go into their annual performance review not knowing what they're about to be evaluated at, in
Yeah,
my
it shouldn't
opinion.
be a surprise. Should not be a
Correct.
surprise.
And so we're going to capture some of that administrative data, um, and then we go into the opening. And this is the intent is to just check on your people.
Hmm.
Hey, how you doing this week? Is there anything significant going on? What are any great wins somebody might want to share? Or there may be a very difficult challenge, any type of update. But that first few minutes of it, as I kind of like to turn it just to, a team member that walked in and ask him, hey, man, how's it going? How are you doing this week?
So there's 2 points I like about the way we've worded this here is like any wins or challenges, right? Like, so you bring them in, sit them down. Hey, how you doing? What went well? What's been going on recently that is going well? What is a win you've got recently? Or what are some of the challenges you've been having? And instead of, just coming in and sit down, hey, what's your problem?
Yeah.
But then also that second bullet is really important. Any personal professional updates. So yeah, like maybe they were going to school, maybe they've identified a school they want to go to, or maybe um, they found out they're going to have a child soon or something. Like those kind of things that can a personal part of their life can impact their professional life, right? So
Absolutely.
it's good to have that kind of talk just to see kind of where they're at and some of the wins and challenges that have been going on recently. So don't skip on that stuff. It's pretty important.
Yeah. And I think I like to think of it as setting the tone for the next 30,
Hmm.
45 minutes. I used to always try to block an hour for these. Sometimes you can get through everything in 30 minutes, maybe it's 45. And I know everybody's schedule will vary on that. But I want to set the tone of this is a two-way conversation and that I care about you and I want to hear from you. And so rather than when you come in and I just get up on my soapbox and start preaching, instead, the first thing I do is I want to hear your opinion, or just I want to hear from you. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
How are you doing this week? Anything big going on? Because you may have team members who either came from a different organization or a different team and they're not used to this. And every time they have been called in, it has been like going to the principal's office.
Ugh.
So even though you may have the best intentions in the world, there may be some challenges that you're fighting, some negative connotations with this. And so to
Right.
me, one of the best ways to fight that is just right up front. Hey, you tell me how things are going before you really get into the meat of the meeting.
Yeah, and those are questions, right? It starts out with
Mhm.
questions. You're listening,
Yeah,
right? That's an important
exactly.
takeaway. You were listening.
Yeah. And so after you have made this, opening conversation there, then, we talk about getting into the progress review and spending some time on specific, whether it be priorities and goals or key projects. And I feel like this is a time to where you can kind of make that transition. If you ask them, hey, how are things going? Well, they may bring up a particular
Hmm.
project or initiative that they're either one doing really well with, or they're like, hey, we got this finished, or well, we're having trouble with this. And this may be a way that you can then interject and um, help them with that particular issue.
Right. So if they're building a custom piece of furniture, right? Hey, this is where you get the update on how's it going. What are we meeting the milestones we've set out? Are you getting close to the goal? Are we behind? And then that may lend itself to the second bullet, which is any roadblocks preventing the progress. So you ask them how it's going. They say, "Oh, well, it's not going real well."
Yeah.
Okay, what's causing the delay? What is causing the backup?
Yeah. And I think a lot of times as leaders, our role, and we've talked about it before, is setting the conditions and addressing resource needs. And it's not to go down there
Hmm.
and micromanage something for them, but instead it's if they are having a challenge is getting the materials they need from a vendor. Well, maybe I can make a phone call over there and explain how critical these materials are and see if we can get them on a different shipment.
Right.
Maybe I have an existing relationship with that vendor, or maybe it's just I can authorize an overnight shipment that they can't. It's
Yeah.
just a funding issue. And so sometimes it's real, and I hate to call them small or little things, but things that are easier for a leader to affect without, an extreme amount of energy expenditure.
Right. And I love how it says, "How can I help?" Right there at the second part of that. That's because that's it's 2 points in that one bullet. Any roadblocks? What are your roadblocks? What are your problems? How can I help you? Right? Because that's what a leader can do, right?
Hmm.
We can help remove roadblocks, reduce obstacles so that they can make progress.
Yeah, and sometimes we always put the focus on ourselves of how am I going to come up with a solution to this problem. Don't forget to ask your team. So,
Mhm.
sometimes they know how you can help. Just be like, hey, what do you need?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to get creative.
Yeah. You have to establish, though, by listening, right, that it's okay to ask for help. Tell me what you need, and I can help you. That's a bit of a deeper topic, but
And so as we talk about this second section of progress review and making sure uh, what are the roadblocks that we can help remove, we also want to make sure that they're receiving not just the resources but the support as well.
mhm.
There's going to be times where the team is looking for support in some form. Maybe it is through resources, maybe it's logistics, maybe it's a training need, maybe there's a new piece of equipment and they're having some challenges there. And that's another way as a leader we can reach out and make sure that they are fully supported, which I think is important.
Yeah, so if you're building that custom piece of furniture, are you getting the screws from their department on time? Maybe they're
Right.
not, and that's causing a big problem. So that's a problem that as a leader we can help solve. Are you getting support from the other organizations that you need? Are your team members or is the rest of the team helping support you? It's just all problems that a leader can help solve.
Yeah, and I think so after we've kind of got this progress review as we call it of kind of knowing where we're at and this is in my mind probably over the past week or two. This is the most recent update because you're going to have, if you're doing things, if you're doing things right, you're probably having conversations on a regular basis with your team.
Yeah,
This is not
yeah,
like the first time you've talked to them all month.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but this is you've got your progress update now, and so then that lets you transition into some feedback and development and having the conversation of okay, so if these are your challenges right now or maybe these are the things you're doing really well at, what are the skills or areas that you may be looking to improve because we're always trying to develop our team members.
Mhm. So this can be where they update you on, yeah, some of the training they think might be good to
Mm-hmm.
help them get better at their assigned tasks.
Yeah, and I think that it's always important when we're looking at how do we come up with our professional development plan for whether it's a quarter or a year. Um, I like to ask my team members, what do you want to be trained on? What are the things that you feel like are gaps? Because I may feel like somebody is strong in one aspect. Maybe it's process improvement or Lean Six Sigma or something like that. And they may be thinking that they would like to go for additional training and improve those
Hmm.
skills. And so I don't want to just sit back and dictate all of the training of my team. I mean, there's going to be times for that, but I at least want to know what is it that they're looking to improve and how can we support that? And does it match what my vision for this team is? And if not, what are their long range goals? But this is a format and a time where you can have a candid two-way conversation and really understand your team members?
Yeah. So, Craig, I've got a great example for this one. There was a soldier I had, and he was in one assigned role. It was a leadership role. He was in charge of about 4 people or so. And he was a younger leader, um, and it just wasn't really working out. And according to the Army, like the standard path for his job title, like that's what you did. After you were a part of a team, you became the leader of the team. And he didn't really kind of get the leadership bug. It really
Yeah.
just wasn't really working out for him. So after observing him and listening to him and talking to him, and then me consulting with my right hand man, my first sergeant, right, the senior sergeant in the formation with me, we noticed that he did kind of have a knack for administrative kind of things. So I said, well, hey, let's put him in a different role. Let's talk to him. Say, hey, clearly it looks like this may not be for you. How else can you contribute? So we were
Exactly.
able to move him from that position to being in charge of our recruiting program.
Okay. Yeah.
And he was amazing. He did a really good job. Like our retention numbers. So in the Army, every time a soldier comes up for reenlistment after their initial term of enlistment ends, they come up for reenlistment, and it's kind of a special process. There's different bonuses they can get depending on what they do, and then different types of contracts and things like that. So it's kind of a big deal. And as a commander, I had to be directly involved in that. And it's kind of a lot of detailed navigating of paperwork that has to be done as a part of that. And this soldier, for whatever reason, not the best, not didn't get the leadership bug, but was great at this. So we said, hey, let's try you here. So he put him
Hmm.
in charge of the retention program. And my company had the best retention rate in United States Army Europe because of him.
Yeah.
Like
That's
we were able to
awesome.
sit down and I could see how much more comfortable he was in that role. Like we would sit down and talk to him, every couple of weeks. Hey, where are we at with the retention program? He'd sit down and he would be so confident in
Hmm.
telling us all where we were and what we should do. And hey, how's it going? We, a couple months ago, we met 5 soldiers. We talked to 5 soldiers. How did that go? How many understand? And it was amazing, the difference.
Yeah.
And so that came from, listening and observing him
Yeah.
and then talking to him about what he likes, what he doesn't like, and assessing where he might be. And that was, I feel like I need to say, don't be afraid to depart from the path, right? Because, hey,
Yeah.
we had him in this assigned role, and that's the
Right.
path.
Hmm.
But you know what? That wasn't working out for him. Okay. What is working out for you? Where can we use you that you're good at and comfortable with that supports the company's goal?
Yeah. I think that's a great example. And that shows too sometimes the not just the flexibility of the soldiers, but the leadership too of how do we find solutions.
Mm,
And a lot of times to really make these decisions and come up with these maybe unique or creative solutions, you would only know about that if you had been engaged with your team members
right.
and know what their thoughts are, because that's a challenge, that not just that specific position you're speaking of there, but there's several of them like that,
Hmm.
that where you have to take someone who's maybe trained for one particular job or role, and you're cross training and putting them in a different position. And if you get that wrong, it's very difficult, because if you put the guy over there who has zero desire and not the right skill set for
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
it impacts the organization. But you as a leader, in your example there, you were aware of the temperament, the skill set of that soldier to know that, hey, let's try this. Let's see. I think that we're going to be good here. And there's always a little bit of, you know, um, you don't know until you cross train that person over there and get them
Yeah.
going. But you've
Yeah.
probably already got that 80 to 90% idea in your head, like, oh yeah, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
And I think it's important though that had the potential to be a missed opportunity
Hmm.
because you having that great retention rate, if you had not had those conversations and been observing and knowing your team. And
Yeah.
like you said, it wasn't just you. There were other leaders inside of that
Absolutely.
organization. But leadership's a team sport. And so, you and your team came to this conclusion of, hey, let's try this. Let's see if we can, utilize them here. And I think that's a great example of second and third order effects of these conversations
Yes.
and these tools of the better you know your team throughout the course of your tenure in that leadership role, the better it is for the entire organization.
Right, because I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't been observing him, if I hadn't been talking to him, if I hadn't been talking to my counterpart, right? So I was a buffalo, Craig. I was a buffalo in that moment.
Yeah. Sounds like it worked out well for you.
For that time, it did. Yeah, it worked out well.
So as we're talking about, here in this bullet of development and feedback and knowing what our team members' skills are, and then I think this is a good time to, ask them if they feel aligned with the team and company goals and making
Hmm.
sure that I think sometimes we kind of glance over the idea of a vision or long range goals. But this is where, to go back to your example, that traditional path of the company goals for that soldier didn't really meet their
Yeah.
individual goals, maybe.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a good opportunity to kind of make that adjustment and pivot over to, well, we have some other options here. We don't just have to force the square peg in the round hole.
Right.
We
Exactly.
we can actually make some adjustments and it improves not only that soldier's maybe quality of life, even if they're happier there,
Hmm. Hmm.
but also the entire organization. It actually has far reaching effects when there is alignment and people are enjoying what they do.
Hmm. You can't call a fish stupid for not climbing a tree.
Exactly. You just got to put him back in the water.
You can put it back in the water.
And so this is also kind of the point in the conversation where I think you can have that feedback. And I think it's comprehensive in that same conversation. It's not like you have to shift gears into, now let me tell you what you're doing right and wrong.
Yes.
It is, hey, I've noticed you've been successful at that. Would you like to pursue these other, career paths, these other non-traditional options? Or somebody may have just expressed that they're really happy in the role they're at, and you may be able to recommend some improvement. Maybe it's training. Maybe it's, hey, let's talk about that training event we did 2 weeks ago. And let's talk about how that went. And you keep it at that conversation level because, again, this is to be two-way. You may actually find out it went better than you thought it did, or it went worse than you thought it did. But you've got to answer those questions and be able to really get to the root cause of what's going on inside your organization. And these one-on-one conversations, in my opinion, are some of the best ways to
Yes.
do that because it builds those real relationships.
Absolutely.
And I think when we're talking about building trust in our team, building those relationships is a great asset in doing that.
All right. So after you've kind of walked through uh, the skills they're looking to improve, or if they feel aligned, and some feedback to them, and any feedback they have for you. Now let's talk about the future. What are your priorities? What do you want to accomplish this month?
Yeah, and I think that, again, just like how we started this conversation of asking them questions, we also want to do that. That's kind of how you wrap this thing up, is ask some more. of what is it that you're looking for? What are your top priorities?
Mm-hmm.
And that helps me better support my team if I know what everybody's priorities are, especially as you increase in seniority and you're leading other leaders who have their own teams. You need to know what their priorities are in the short term so that you can help support them. And maybe it's just a communication piece. Maybe it's making that phone call for them. But those are key ways we can benefit the entire organization.
Mm-hmm. So what I think about in this is like any upcoming challenges or concerns, right? If I'm a younger employee and my spouse is about to have a child, or that can be a big challenge, right? That is obviously going to be on the top of my mind all the
Definitely.
time.
Yeah.
So that can be so in the future, hey, in 2 months or so, we've got this amount of product due, or just the same amount of product due. That can be an opportunity for that employee to come and say, you ask them, what are you concerned about in the next 2 months, 3 months, next quarter? And then that gives them the opportunity to say, hey, she's due in 2 months, and I'm probably gonna have to take a lot of time off of work if everything goes well, right? And then that's going to be a concern for them, because
Yeah.
even if they don't speak that part out loud, that is something the leader can plan for, right? Because if we know that they're going to be having that big life event in a couple of months, they may have to take a little bit of extra time off, so we may have to compensate for that in other ways. And we can also help them be less concerned about it. All right, by okay, thank you for telling me. Um, got it. Let's take care of you. Let's figure out how we can take care of you and allow you to work and support that major life event. Right.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we point out that all of these conversations apply to both the not just professional side of things, but the personal side too. Those
Mm-hmm.
key life events, whether it be a birth, whether it be what my team's kind of hobbies were. I wanted to know what it was they were doing on the weekends, just so I know them better and understand. Because if, and I know this is going to sound kind of silly, but if you're a really big football fan and your team lost Sunday night,
That's a
are
big
you
deal.
going to be a little sad on Monday morning?
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Maybe so. Like and it's not going to like prevent them from making their production goals. I don't mean to imply that, but maybe when you see them Monday morning, you can give them that little bit. Hey, man, sorry y'all had that tough loss last night. Or maybe it's I know an individual who was going on a big hunting safari in Africa. Well, to him, that was a major life event. And so leading up to that, you've kind of got those opportunities of, hey, man, how are you getting ready for your trip? How's that planning going? And that is something just like the birth of a child that's going to have some crossover of both
Mm-hmm.
personal and professional life. It's going to affect your ability to be available for work, but it's
Right.
also something that's very important. And as us as leaders, you've got to care about your team, not just when they're producing products for you, but also what's going on outside of work. Because if they're worried about those things in their personal
Mm-hmm.
life, they're not going to be focused. They're not going to be operating safely and efficiently on the production floor. And so while there's a balance there of not to getting too far involved in that stuff, you want to be aware of those big events and what's going on in their life. To from a support role, you want to be there for those things.
Yeah, right, Craig. So, like the day after the Major League Soccer Cup, don't expect me to come to work, Craig. We're not going to record a podcast the day after.
Yeah, it's tough times. Atlanta may have set everybody's dreams way too high in that first season.
You know, it's all right. It's all right.
Yeah. And then one thing that may seem just administrative here is the idea of signatures. I put the two little we put the two little signature lines there because I think having it, the formality of signing a piece of paper,
Yeah.
makes it feel a little bit different. It makes it feel official.
Yeah. Because it's kind of like a contract, right?
Exactly. And so I think when we're having these conversations and we say, okay, all right, what are our takeaways? What do you need me to do to help you and support you? And what are you going to do for upcoming goals or challenges or whatever it is? And so me and you have this agreement of here's one or two things that you're going to do and I'm going to do. And then we sign it. And so maybe it's weeks or months down the road, if there's any miscommunication and someone misunderstands what was agreed upon, we can always pull out this document and
Pull it
look
back
at it
out. You
and
can
say,
pull it
"Hey,
back out.
let's talk about this." And again, I want to emphasize this is not a trap. This is not an "I got you" moment, but it is a tool so that if Craig comes to you and is like, "No, that's definitely not what we talked about," or "I never said that," we can pull this out and just be like, "Let's have a conversation." It's not a blame game. It's not to point fingers, but it is for us to talk about it and have the
Mm-hmm.
conversation to understand where did we have a miscommunication.
Yeah, because you can pull it out and say, "Hey, whoa, I thought we talked about this.
Right.
We went over this. See, you signed it right here.
Yeah.
Did I
And
not understand something?"
yeah. And maybe we do find there was miscommunication. Maybe I pull it out and I look at it and I'm like, wow, Craig, that's not what he said. I thought he said he's not going to be here after the Super Bowl, and he said he wasn't going to be here after the MLS Cup.
Yeah.
All right, my bad. But there's value in this, and I think if nothing else, from just the mindset of, I went in there and I told the boss I'm going to go do this new training next quarter, and I signed that piece of paper. There's a little bit of ownership there. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's important. So these are, like we said, this is a template. These are some ideas for you to use as you're working on this stuff with your team. Feel free to develop your own tools and your own documents for your organization and adjust them to what fits your needs. But these are some high level ideas of ways we've had conversations in the past that we found success. And we just want to share this with you all so you don't just start with a blank piece of paper and you have something to build from.
Right. And this is about, the one-on-one meeting. This is about a conversation, kind of a more formal way to have a conversation. But really also it's a good way to remember some of the leadership ideals, right? It's about talking to people. It's about listening to
Exactly.
people, communicating,
Yeah.
right? This is just a way to help you remember to do that, and a way to, to get it written down, so that you don't understand football when they say football,
Yeah.
right? But this is a good tool to use, to have, and to do, but it facilitates, don't forget that it facilitates some of the actions of leadership, which is really just talking to your people.
Exactly. All right, well, we appreciate y'all listening today. And again, we'll have this document. You'll be able to get a link to it in the description as well as on our website. And if you want to follow along with us, YouTube's probably a good platform for that. And we appreciate you and hope you have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. As always, take these lessons, use them, and spread them. Everyone is welcome in the cohort.
Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe for more. And drop us a line at commandpostcohort.com to request a specific topic.
We'll see you next time on the cohort.